Imagine being a sick kid in a hospital. You're in an unfamiliar environment, you don't know anyone there, and you just want to feel a little more at home. And what better way to feel more at home than a nice colorful pillowcase? We have given you all the instructions and materials necessary in order to make one of these beautiful pillowcases. And we challenge you to make some with your troop and donate them to people in need.
For your materials, you're going to need 3 pieces of fabric, a sewing machine with included thread, an iron and an ironing board, some sewing rulers, a rotary cutter, and clothespins or needles, whichever you prefer.
Before we begin, I should mention that all the fabric we're cutting today came off the bolt, which means it's folded in half. So when we're cutting this 27 by 20 inches, it's actually folded so it will be 27 by 40 inches for our project. I'm going to show you guys how to cut the fabric to make your pillowcase. You need a piece of fabric that is 20 inches by 27 inches. This one is already cut to be 20 inches on this side, so we're going to cut it over here to be 27 inches. I've lined up this side with the 30 mark on the board, and over here it's lined up with 3. So we're going to get this ruler and line it up in 3 different places. We want to line it up right here so that the edge is level with the 3. We're going to line up this black line so that it's across this orange line, and then we're going to line up this black line on the edge of our fabric so that we know that it's straight. Once everything is lined up and we know that our fabric is straight, I'm going to get this cutter and I'm going to cut straight along this line. Now this rectangle is 20 by 27 inches. Next, we're going to use this green fabric to make the cuff, and it needs to be 9 inches. So we're going to line it up right here and count 9 inches down. Once again, we're going to get the ruler, line it up where 9 inches should be. And once again, we're lining it up in 3 places. We need to line it up on this side with the number so that we know that it is 9 inches. We're lining up this black line with the orange line on the cutting board, and this black line with the edge of the fabric so we know that everything is straight. And once again, get the fancy cutting tool. So now that we have this side 9 inches long, we're going to make sure that it's 20 inches. Because just like with this other one, it needs to be 20 inches long on this side so that it's 9 by 20 inches. And once it's lined up, go 20 inches down and line up the ruler. And in the same way, we're lining it up in 3 places. The edge with the numbers so that we know it's 20 inches down. This black line with this orange line on the cutting board, and this black line with the top of the fabric so that we know everything is straight. And once it's all lined up, and the cuff piece of fabric is 9 by 20 inches. The last piece we're going to do is this. This is going to be the trim. It's going to be 2 inches by 20 inches. So just like how we did with the other pieces of fabric, we're going to line it up right here, count 2 inches down, and once again we're going to get our ruler and line it up in all 3 places so that it's even with the number, even with the orange line, and even with the top of the fabric. Once we're sure that everything is straight, so now that it's cut to be 2 inches on this side, we're going to make sure that it's 20 inches long on the other side so that the piece of fabric is 2 by 20 inches. And now you have the piece of fabric to make the trim.
So, because our troop has people all the way from kindergartners to high schoolers, we've split up the pillowcase steps into very small steps. That way, even your younger kids in your troop should be able to accomplish it. So first, we need to touch upon definitions of the fabric. So the fabric has 2 sides. The right side is the side where the pattern is prominent and the fabric looks correct. And the other side, where the pattern is faint and looks sort of incorrect, is called the wrong side. So we're going to start by taking the cuff piece of fabric and placing it flat on the table, completely unfolded, with the right side facing up. So you're going to take the trim piece of fabric and fold it longwise across so that the wrong sides are put together and the right side is facing up. After we've made sure to iron the folds completely flat, we're going to match the raw edges, or the cut part of the fabric, onto the top of the cuff piece, so that both raw edges should be lined up exactly. Once we have it like that, we're going to take some clothespins, or needles if you're comfortable with your girls using those, and pin the fabric to make sure it doesn't move from its position. Once you're done with that, you're going to take your main piece of fabric and unfold it all the way and stick it so that the right side of the fabric is facing down and the wrong side is facing up. And again, line it up to the edge. Once you've finished placing your main piece of fabric down, you're going to take your pins again and pin them opposite from where the other pins are, again to keep it in place, and then take out your old existing pins. Our next step is going to be taking the main piece of fabric and rolling it up to the edge. You can do this by hand, but if you think it would be easier, you can also get a small stick and use that to help your girls roll it up. We recommend placing the edge of the stick so it's reaching out so that you can pull the stick out later. After you have it rolled up so it almost touches the edge, you're going to take the bottom of your cuff and pull it up so that the wrong side should be facing up, and line the edges up to the already cut edge. And now again, you're going to take your pins and pin it to make sure all of the sides should be lined up correctly, and then take out your old pins. So now, before you go to the sewing machine to finish sewing your pillowcase, you want to make sure that everything is right and correct the way it should be. So for the sides, if you peel it back and look, you want to make sure that your cuff is lined so the right side is facing up, and your trim is folded also with the right side facing up. Your main face should be down with the wrong side facing up. Once you've made sure that all of those steps seem to be correct, your pillowcase is ready to be sewed.
As we're sewing our pillowcase, we're going to have a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and we've marked that out with tape on our sewing machine. So we're going to get the edge of our fabric and make sure that all the fabric is lined up, and we're going to line that up along with the edge of the tape. Make sure everything stays straight. Then we're going to lower our needle and put down the foot. After that's taken care of, using this lever back here, we're going to turn it into reverse. So just a little bit backwards. And that will keep our seam strong. So now that we have that done, we're putting it back into forwards. And we're going to keep it lined up on this edge and sew all the way down this side. Whenever we come to a pin, we can just take it out. And as you're sewing, make sure that the edge stays lined up with the tape, and also that all the fabric stays together so that you're not losing pieces as you're going down. Now that we've sewn all the way up the fabric, we're going to turn it into reverse once more and go backwards just a little bit, and that will keep our seams from coming undone. Now that we've sewed all the way along the edge, taken it off the sewing machine and cut the thread, we have this long tube of sewn fabric. To get our pillowcase out, we're going to peel back the outer layer and carefully pull out the inside of the tube. As we're doing this, you'll see that the right side of the fabric is coming out, and you can see the pattern. As we unroll it, you'll you'll see that it has come out to be a big rectangle with the cuff on the edge. Now this is almost done, but there's one last step before we finish our pillowcases. We're going to fold this in half. And we're going to do the right edges together so that the wrong side that doesn't have the pattern will be on the outside. We can lay it down, make sure that it's straight, and I'm going to get these pins and pin the edges. Come back over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to start up at this corner. Once again, we have our pillowcase fabric lined up with this tape. Our first step is going to be to lower the needle and to lower the foot. And just like we did last time, we're going to start by going backwards because that will help with our seam, and then we're going to go forwards again, removing the pins as we go. After we sewed straight down this side, we're going to turn it around and do the same for the other edge of the pillowcase. Now that we've sewn down both sides of our pillowcase, we're going to finish our project by putting the machine in reverse once again, and then sewing off the edge, and we clip it. As you can see here, our pillowcase has taken shape. Our final step is to turn it right side out. Now the right side of the fabric is showing. We have our completed project.